Synth Network.
Good evening, everyone. It is Sunday the 31st of January. How did we get to the end of January already? It's crazy. It's just gone 8 p.m. here in the UK. Welcome one and all to the 43rd episode of the Pro Synth Network show, live, coming from the UK and the USA. And I am, as ever, joined by my partners in crime, Ben Simpson and Cryss Synthient. Welcome, gentlemen. Hello. Let's go to Cryss first. How are you in California? How are things over there?
Yeah, we're doing all right. It's been kind of a crazy week, but looking forward to doing our February filter sweep stuff and having a good time.
Yeah, indeed. And up to Warrington in the north of England, Ben Simpson in his glorious... I'm going to have to come and see that place soon. How are you, Ben?
I'm great, thanks, yeah. Yeah,
Good,
just
good.
carrying on with getting tracks ready for Electromantics and... trying to build websites in between that, but apart from that, yeah, it's going really well.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, we don't have a specific guest this week. We've got a bunch of news topics and some other things to discuss throughout the next couple of hours. So thanks everyone for joining us. Those of you who are in the chat room, so we've got people like Wagyu and EMX Gold, Imperfect. We've got Brian Oliva. I get that right. I have to make sure I get that right because you told me off last time. Paula Hartola, Keith in Watford, Yannisetta, Aaron there in Perfect, Dusty River, Jupiter Boy 74, and we got Martin Taylor, Atto Z, Native VS. I almost said Pro Synth Network, but then that's me. Asio Head, Usual Crowd, and Dr. Synth. Hello again. Simon's in there as well. Martin Stonehouse. And a whole bunch of others. And if you're not already in the chat room, Sasquatch, I just saw Sasquatch. If you're not already in the chat room, get in there, have a chat. You kind of feed into the whole thing. It's really good. Before we move on to news topics, first of all, let me just remind you to join us on our Facebook page if you haven't already. I'm sure most of you have. That's kind of where the action goes down for 6 days or 6.5 days of the week. And then for the other half, we're here doing this thing. We will have our weekly topic discussion. This week's not a poll, it's just a topic. And we'll have that coming up a little bit later on. And of course, if you want to donate to us and keep us on the air, some people might not want to do that. But if you do, it does cost a little bit of money. And we are grateful for every single donation that we get. The link is just down here on your screen. There's a link to click in the description below as well. I didn't receive, although I didn't see, a new PSN bingo card, but you look in the links down below. There's one there. You can use that one again, I'm sure. We'll delight you with some common phrases and terms. Just keeps things interesting. So we've got a whole bunch of news topics and some discussion points, and we do have a special announcement to make a little bit later on. So we're going to keep you on tenterhooks there, but please do stick around because it is very important that you do hear what we have to say. So we'll have that coming a little bit later. But of course, you can join in with the chat. And if we think you say something worthwhile, we'll throw it up on the screen so that everyone can see. Thank you, Inky. Welcome to the show yourself. Welcome to Mac as well, who I've just seen pop up in there. But yeah, please do contribute to the show as much as you can because it saves us to talking all the time. Gentlemen, shall we crack on with our first topic of the week? Let's do that. So this one is kind of interesting to me because I'm a long-term user of this particular thing. This is the news that Reason has introduced a subscription platform called Reason Plus. So there is a perpetual license model, which is still going, and they've not stopped doing that. So if you don't like subscribing, you don't have to. It's as simple as that. If you want the full version of the DAW, you can you can buy a perpetual license to regular Reason and Reason Suite, because there are two kind of versions. Reason Suite gets you a whole bunch of goodies thrown in for a little bit extra cash. But what they've started to do now is this Reason Plus subscription service, which you pay $19.99 or euro a month, and you get access to the full version of the DAW. You get access to every single rack extension that Reason Studios make and will make. So it's ongoing. So if they add 50 rack extensions from Reason Studios, you'll get those, and you'll still pay $19.99 a month. You'll also get every week a selection of sound packs, and these aren't just sample packs. These are instrument patches for the rack instruments and Reason rack extensions, and you get a few of those a week, and you get all of that kind of thrown in, and you'll always have the most up-to-date version of the DAW for your $19.99 a month. Now, we all know that subscription services do stir up some emotions. So let's. I'll come clean here for the benefit of disclosure. I'm on the Reason test pilot team, so I've been testing this and going on, and feeding back on this for it seems like ages now. So anyway, just to put that out there, because I don't want anybody to think I'm biased. I actually am not a massive fan of subscribing to a DAW, but this does seem like a fairly reasonable package. But we'll come up to that later. Chris, what are your thoughts? I mean, I don't think either of you guys are committed Reason users, but A, what are your thoughts on Reason doing this, and B, is this the way you see things going?
Yeah, I've never used Reason, and so I couldn't tell you anything about it, but to address the more general issue of the subscription, I really don't like the subscription plans unless they offer you some sort of benefit. And so to me, just subscribing for the sake of subscribing is kind of a terrible deal. But mind you, there are a lot of companies that have basically hidden subscriptions, right? Like Waves or some of these companies, if you want, or Arturia, where you want the latest synthesizers, you either pay through the nose or you upgrade your whole collection, which may as well be a subscription for what it costs. Mm-hmm. So, when we can kind of walk away with something, for instance, subscribing to Roland Cloud, the synthesizers are great. Mm-hmm. Subscribing for the sake of subscribing, I don't like, but when they run their promotions and you get for your $200 2 free synthesizers with it after the subscription done, then to me it's worth it to go ahead and do it. So does this Reason package, so it gives you access to everything all at once, of course, and that's one of the, definitely one of the benefits of a subscription, because say you don't want to invest a whole lot of money, you can try a month out of an ecosystem without having to invest so much money, which is a benefit. Mm-hmm. Do they offer you anything afterwards, like if you stop the subscription, what do you get with the subscription for this?
So as far as I'm aware, no. There is no, there's nothing like that thing that you get with the Roland Cloud that after a year subscribing, you then get to keep something. But if I'm not mistaken, that wasn't the case with Roland Cloud to start with. So who knows? It might be something that they do. They might say after every year of subscription, you get to keep X amount of rack extensions, or you maybe get $100 off the price of the perpetual license if you want to go that way. I don't know. I mean, I'm not entirely sure they want to steer people to the perpetual license anymore. I guess this is the new model. I mean, they're kind of selling it on the premise that this will bring new people to Reason. Rather than if all those people have died in the war, perpetual license, they'll carry on as normal, and they've said they're not going to take that away. But this subscription thing might bring new people to the platform. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Well, just for sake of curiosity, since I'm very ignorant about Reason, rack extensions that are talked about with Reason, are those just plugins for the system?
Yeah, so the rack extension format was their initial kind of relaxing of the closed environment. So instead of immediately adopting the VST or audio units platform, they came up with rack extensions. They got quite a few people on board in terms of developers, so GeForce, Korg, Softube, Yuhi, a bunch of others as well, and they opened up the SDK so that you or if we were developers, we could create stuff, but they will only work in Reason. And at the time, I remember it was being sold by Ernst, who was the CEO at the time, that they would provide an SDK. So if you were a VST developer, for example, you could throw your code into this SDK and it would spit out the Reason rack extension version, and then you might just have to tweak things here or there. Having spoken to a number of developers over the years, that's kind of not the case. It takes a lot more effort to do that. But last year or the year before, they introduced the Reason Rack plugin. So when you own Reason, whether it's through the subscription service or the perpetual license, you get a VST and audio unit plugin that allows you to use the rack within your regular DAW, whether it's Ableton or Cubase or Logic or whatever. So you can use all of that, all of those rack extensions within the Reason rack as a plugin inside your DAW. So there you go. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, well, that would be the thing that interested me the most, actually, would be the rack. I used Cubase Reason a while back, and I didn't like the sequencing side of it that much. And it's not that there was anything wrong with it, it's just that I'm so set in my ways and how I do things. It's just I find switching to anything else difficult. So I was using Rewire at the time, and one of the problems that I was having was that I'd either save the Reason part of the song in a completely different folder and later lose it, which would mean that like half of my track was missing when I revisited it a year later, or just forgetting to save it all together. So I used to love the Reason rack, and I love the where you flip it round with the tab key, don't you? And you can get round to the back, and there's literally every wiring possibility will do something, unless you do something ridiculous, like any logical wiring combination will work. And I really like that. So a bit intrigued is for people like me who I reckon there is, a fairly big customer base there of people who maybe don't want to switch to a new sequencing platform, but would like the Reason rack as do it as a subscription, the same deal. If anything new comes out from Reason Studios, bung that into my rack, and I'll give you $7.99 a month.
Yeah,
or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do get a lot for your money. Let's be honest. You're getting a fully featured DAW that I struggle with the people that still seem to think that Reason is a lesser DAW than the rest. Yeah, it doesn't have some of the features that others have, but then Cubase doesn't have features that Logic has. Logic has Cubase features that Cubase doesn't. You can say that of anything. I've always liked Reason because I can literally boot it up and start making music straight away. I haven't got to think about where my plugins are. Everything's down. I can just drag it in, start playing. It's got a lot of these cool little player plugins or extensions that start to give you chords and arps and all sorts of different. It's just a really immediate thing. And I tried everything back in 2001, 2. At the time, and just got really fed up with it, and Reason was the only one that kind of fitted with my the way that I do things in my head, and so I've always been a user. And I did try a couple of years ago to move away from it and abandon it to go into the world of Logic, but I can't seem to let go somehow. But I mean, one of the things that is worth pointing out here, so you get, I don't know why it's done that. Cryss is on his own. We want that one. There we go. So for your $19.99, you get these weekly inspiring sound packs, which are all delivered through this new thing called the Reason Plus Companion. And so you fire that up and you can see what is available, and it's there. You just click on it. Oh, I like that. Click on it, and it downloads it. And when you open Reason, it's already there, ready to go. So it's done very, very well. The Reason Plus Companion also now deals with authorization, so you don't need to have a dongle. You just authorize through this, which is nicer and more convenient. You get 70 plus instruments and effects from the Reason Studios brand, which you can also use within the plug-in rack, which works in any VST or audio units supporting DAW. And just to give you, here's the frequently asked questions. If you do already own Reason, you want to move across, you can do so, and they'll knock 50% off your first year of Reason Plus. So you do get a discount if you already, and you want to move to subscription. There is a bonus there. And if you already use Reason, can I keep using my license? Absolutely, it's yours, and they're not taking it away. So they're not forcing people down the subscription route, which I think is a clever thing to do. So if you're into Reason, then this is a pretty good way of getting into it. And as Cryss points out, I think if you want to try this and really get into this thing and not... I mean, they do a demo, which is a completely unfiltered version of the software, except you can't save. Well, with this, you can. And you spend $20. Do I like it? I'll spend a month with it. Do I like it? Maybe at the end of the 30 days, you think, I'm not sure. All right, so it's another $20. But you still get the access to everything. And, there you go. I don't know. I kind of... I'm on the fence on this one. But I like Reason, and I think it's just another way of getting people into it. I think it's a good thing. So I don't know. There's lots of people in the chat room with various sentiments. So, for example, very simple to the point. Sasquatch says nope. Atto Z, I'm not subscribing. I'm leasing. Reason is being unreasonable, just like logic isn't logical. But I think the general feeling, and again, every time that Reason do something, or sorry, Reason Studios do something that used to be Propel Ahead, there's a huge amount of people, it seems more than any other DAW, that jump on the bandwagon and start getting really, really angry whenever they do something or change something or don't do something. And I guess it all stems back to the fact that many years ago people were really, banging on their door saying, give us audio recording. And they did in the form of another application, which they eventually merged into the core app. Then they said, give us plugins, and then they gave us rack extensions, and then eventually they relaxed it and went into VSTs. And it does seem that, they tried to stick to their guns and then eventually give in. So I guess maybe that's where the frustration comes from. But anyway, I like Reason. I still like using it. I still do lots. It works for me in certain things, and Logic does for other things. And I think I shall just keep using those two, using Logic and Reason as I do in real life.
Did they ever update the graphics? Because I haven't seen it for a while. Because I started off with Rebirth, and then and then when Reason came out, it was like, oh, this is the full blown version of Rebirth kind of thing, and. It still had that kind of hand-drawn kind of look about the thing, you know. Did that develop over time?
Yeah, the quality of the graphics has changed and improved. I have to be careful what I say here, but there will be more improvements. Let's say that, and they are going to do. I can't say what they're going to do, but it's going to be quite cool when they do it. Right. But yeah, I mean, graphically at the moment, it doesn't look like Reason 1, which did had that kind of, and still in certain cases, some of the instruments, particularly the older ones, because again, that's another great thing with Reason, is that if you've got version 1 and you wrote a song in version 1, it'll work in version 11. and it goes across the board. Doesn't matter which version a Reason song in version 1 will work in any version. Equally, if you can go kind of backwards as well. Obviously, anything that you're using in the newer versions will just not show up in the older versions, and it'll just come up with a blank plate across there saying, to get this, you're going to need to get this, but it'll still work. So it's kind of nice that they've kind of maintained that continuity there. And myself and my kind of part-time writing partner who lives in Northern Ireland, we've been doing stuff for years, both using Reason, just bouncing files backwards and forwards. Or sharing them in the cloud as we do now, and it just works. Whether he's got it or I've got it, it just works. It's really cool. And there are some really good synthesizers in there, and some really good effects. Some very, very good effects.
Did they provide like regular updates?
Yeah,
it's a new synths coming out quite often.
Yeah, they're kind of dropping new rack extensions every now and again, but they do keep the main platform up to date with point releases. And they've always been pretty good with when they do it, how frequently. Not they don't do it like every week like Reaper, but then they don't leave it every 2 years. So it's a good little thing.
I've got to say, like, really, I think 20 quid might be a bit much, but it does sound. It sounds like a worthwhile investment,
And
like
even if you think about it, like 20 quid or $20 or 20 euros or whatever it's going to be. Even if you forget the DAW, I'm paying 20 a month for all of those instruments and effects. And the number of instruments and effects there probably exceeds the number of instruments and effects you get in the Roland Cloud. If you think about it that way, because then you can use, maybe you don't want to use the Reason DAW, but you'll use the rack plugin in Logic or Cubase again, it's just another option. It's another $20, sure. If you've already got things like Roland Cloud, it's just another subscription. But when you think about it that way, I just think it's a really cool thing, and it's great educationally. It's great because it's a really good way of, like you say, with the rack, and you can connect things. It's been modular software synthesis since before modular software synthesis existed. So anyway, there you go. Cryss, you got any more final thoughts on that one, or no? Done with that. No. Okay, let's move on. Let's. We don't normally do this kind of thing, but I felt compelled to do it, as you will soon see. But something came up on the Reverb shop just recently, and of course it caught my eye, and I then was bombarded with a number of messages. Have you seen this? Have you seen this? Are you going to buy it?
Yes.
I'd love to, but not at that price.
Wow.
Will you look at that? So there you go. It's a Yamaha DX1. There you go. Cross that off your bingo list. And it's being sold by a guy in Turin, which is my neck of the woods. And it's being sold. This is the UK price. I think US it's over $50,000, but it's $41,500. Now this was actually 39 something the other day, but I think the exchange rate it keeps bouncing all over the place. So this is kind of their best estimate. So let's just be conservative and say 40 grand UK. What he's actually done is he was charging hundreds of pounds for the shipping. He's now dropped that right down to 92 pence.
Really? So
yeah, I think it's just a token shipping thing in there, because I think if you're going to buy one of these at 40 grand, you'd expect it to be crated and shipped.
Yeah, he's going to get stung on that postage. So I sold an ADAT the other week for 35 quid, and it cost me 20 quid postage.
I know, yeah, they're heavy things. This thing, well, I mean, I have to say, obviously, we know that the DX1 is this kind of rare beast. There's 140 of them made, so I'm not entirely sure if all 140 are still in existence somewhere, but it is just this gorgeous, gorgeous thing, even if you just look at it as like a piece of furniture. But the seller will ship it in a crate, a purpose-built crate, which is what it came in when he bought it. So, it's going to hopefully arrive in one piece, we hope. There's a few marks on it. He says it's mint condition, but if you look at it's not quite mint condition.
And when we're talking that kind of money, we want accuracy in the description, really.
Exactly, yeah. But, essentially this, the DX1 contained two 6-operator FM engines that you could split or layer. So you had 32-note polyphony if you split them, 16 with dual engines going at the same time. It had the 73 note. Because it's not 76. This is 73 full wooden weighted action with polyphonic aftertouch, Brazilian rosewood casing, and then of course at the top here you've got. Let's see if I can zoom in here. So you've got these LED displays at the top, along with all these controls on that top level that you don't get on the DX5. So all these controls I'm just kind of circling around there, you don't get on the DX5. You do get these ones. So it gives you a little bit of extra kind of in-depth control without having to go menu diving. And then all of these little LED displays that show you the algorithm you've chosen and various features like your level scaling options and your rates and what have you.
So, but this, forgive me if I'm wrong here, but the DX1 is very similar to a DX5, isn't it?
Essentially, a DX5 is a budget DX1, minus the rosewood, minus the poly aftertouch, minus the wooden weighted keyboard, and minus those displays. Other than that, it's exactly the same. And yes, the DX1 and the DX5 both have the hand-picked digital analog converters, whereas the DX7s were just off the shelf. What they would do with the DX1 and the DX5 is they'd go through the boxes and find the very best and then put those into this. And this was also built, let's not forget, this was built by Yamaha's piano division, so the quality is CS80 level in terms of build quality. However, of course, the
portable
big
as well. Portable
if you have an articulated lorry.
Do we know anybody with one of these?
I've known people who have owned them,
and
maybe don't own them anymore. But there are a few around, and I don't think I will ever be able to get one of these. But of course, the big fuss on the internet was this price, and I have to say, I think it's overpriced for what it is. I think maybe 20 to 25,000. And the reason I say this is because nearly on the same day. Let me just call this up. On the same website, there was for sale this. An excellent condition Jupiter 8, 220 volts, so it's a European UK version, for nearly 25,000. And nobody bats an eyelid at that. 25 grand for a Jupiter 8. Now, we could argue the differences between the two machines, but I think that's quite high, because I think 10 to 15,000 is usually the going rate for one of these. But nobody bats an eyelid at that, but everybody jumps in on the DX. Anyway, by the by, Ben, what do you think about these big synths? Would you, if you had the money, would you buy one, say, as an investment?
I'd much rather everybody do what Dave Smith's done with the Prophet 5. I would much rather pay a bit less for a new, more reliable machine. I'm not interested in something because it is old or has a history. I'm interested in it because of the sound it can make. So, and I want that to be as least stressful as it can possibly be, with no expensive servicing costs, easy connectivity, reliability, and a warranty as well. All these.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Cryss?
I agree with Ben. Like, I'd rather buy a newer remake with extra features than have something that's collectible that I'm worried about maintaining or scratching. But I'm absolutely incensed by that DX1. Now, I'm all for buying DX7s and DX5s. In fact, I would love to have a DX5, and I'm very jealous of you, Robbie. But to have that much Brazilian rosewood not contributing to a tone of that DX1 when it could be contributing to the tone of some nice guitar.
Which is why I put wood end panels on mine. Yeah.
That just incenses me.
Yeah. It's a crazy price. But, it's going to go to someone, again, I come back to that quote a few weeks ago. It's an emotional purchase, not a practical one. It will be a collector. I don't think he'll sell it at that price. I think he's going to have to drop it eventually, because I've seen some at similar prices. There was one in Germany about a year or so ago that was on eBay for about 35, and then that came down, and then that disappeared. So I don't know whether it didn't sell or whether he took a best offer. But yeah, and certainly the Jupiter 8, I don't think that's going to sell at near enough 25 grand. That's going to have to come down, I'm sure. I think people are chancing their arm. I do know people who deliberately put stuff out for sale, particularly vintage stuff, at a stupidly high price, and it's like going fishing. Yeah. Because they cast the line out, and it might just be that right moment when there is somebody with a spare £40,000 or whatever knocking about that says, do you know what, the next time I see a DX1 come up, I'm going to buy it. And they get the bite. And then if they don't get a bite, then they change the bait a little bit, or they cast their line a little bit closer to home, and then they maybe get something a little bit less.
It's like a marketing exercise as well, isn't it? You put it out at a ridiculously high price. We're talking about it. Yeah. And then if they drop the price, we'll all be talking about, hey, guess what? That £41,000 DX, it's only 28,000 now.
Yeah, exactly. And as much as I'm a fan of those kinds of synthesizers, I think if I had £40,000, I'd be thinking, do you know what? No, I'd love one. I would absolutely love to own one. But it's just not that price. It's silly. But
I mean, is the value just going to keep going up and up and up? Are we going to be looking at 6 million for a DX1 one day? What's going to happen?
Who knows?
But dude, look at some of the less desirable synthesizers, like the Juno 106, which at one time was not that highly regarded, and I'm seeing them all the time at $2,000 now.
Yeah. The JD800's creeping up in the prices as well.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you one thing, that I've been doing stuff with Fairlights for a decade or so now, and we haven't changed the price of our Fairlight package. If you buy a restored Fairlight with with all the trimmings, it's the same now as it was 10 years ago, and that's not because we can't get the money for it. We could, and when we can justify a higher price, we do. Such as it's got proven history. This was in so and so studio. It's signed by and previously owned by this person. But most of the time, it's kind of a standard thing. And I think there will be a point where these, everything kind of bottoms out at a certain, or plateau, should I say, at a certain price. But when you've got something like the DX1, literally only 140 ever made. I mean, they made twice as many Fairlights. So, there's 140 of these. And let's say, I don't know, say 25 to 40 of those died, got binned, or
imagine walking into like Vicky's auntie's house or something, and there's one there in the corner with like a tea towel on it or something, and a candle. Yeah. Oh yeah, that was that.
That was the organ that the old man used to
that was
play.
Uncle Grat's organ. He never bothered with it. Yeah, I'll take that.
You hear about some of these things, but with the DX1, you think, anyway.
And something that also that will change the market is older Gen Xers and baby boomers age and eventually pass on. Yeah. The prices of those synths might stall a little bit because those are a lot of, as you've pointed out, sentimental purchases, nostalgia, and when there's nobody that's really getting super nostalgic about it, they'll still be worth something, but maybe not have quite the same appeal.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, indeed. But prices will go up, prices will come down, and people will still try and chance their arm. But I just thought we'd throw that one in there because it was an interesting one. So let's talk about you both said that you'd rather buy something that's new, that maybe brings all of that old stuff to the game and maybe some new stuff as well. So why don't we talk about this one? Because we inevitably have to, I guess. And this is the news that I'm hoping it's this one. Yay! Right, so Behringer have announced that 100 prototypes of their new synthesizer have gone out to testers. I think they put a shout out last year. For anyone that owned an original Oberheim OBXA, can you please get in touch? We'd like you to be part of the testing team. The interesting points, I think, here, it's kind of now real and it exists, and we can see a full-blown version of it. I'm guessing they've made 100 of these. They've committed to this as a final design. But number one is this. It is now officially known as the OBXA, as it's the same name as its forebear. And of course, the other part here is that it bears the Oberheim logo, which we've never seen before on previous images of this. It was always kind of referenced as the UBXA, but of course we know that Behringer bought the trademark, and putting how we feel about that aside, Cryss, how do you feel about this synthesizer existing now and hopefully being available to us all soon?
I'm fine with it. They can. I like the fact that somebody's at least making them. For the logo and everything, it to kind of hold the things in balance. Like, it didn't really need to have it. It could have still gone on the market as UBXA, and I've been more than happy with that. I know some people are getting upset about using the logo and stuff, and business-wise and the legality of it, it was open. Nobody cared to keep the whatever it would be, the trademark, if that was right.
I guess, yeah.
To keep that going and keep it protected. So it's fair game for anybody to snap it up. So we understand that there's nothing illegal going on, and I don't think it's immoral to use a logo that's been abandoned. I just, I don't think I think it would have been classier just to leave it off and just call it the, UBXA or whatever.
We know what it is, don't we?
Yeah, it's no problem. I think it'll be a great synthesizer. For me personally, like, I've got an OB6, so I don't really need it. And I really like the sound of the SEM filters better than, the OBX and the SEM stuff better than the OBXA and OB8. So I'd stick with that. But I think this is going to really be enjoyed by a lot of players. And, I'm expecting it'll come out sub $1,000 or pounds. So imagine a lot of people are going to be able to get a hold of something that they've dreamt about for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. Ben, your thoughts on this?
I'm kind of completely the opposite from Cryss, really, on this one. I've got so many mixed emotions over the whole thing. I don't really know what I feel. I'm quite... I'm glad that it's being made. If I didn't know anything about it, like, I didn't really understand the Viscount thing when that happened, I just thought, behind my back, and I thought the OB12 was great at the time, and we had one in Electro 80s, and then realised it really had very little to do with Tom Oberheim, and I think I would just rush out and buy the OBXA is back, it's been re-released. If I didn't understand the history of what's gone on and that, if I didn't know, if I was completely ignorant to that, but with knowing that it's kind of been, it was intended to be a clone, like an affordable clone, and it didn't pay any royalties to Tom for using the circuit designs and what have you, then to legitimately buy the name, which is fine, I've got no problem with that, but then to put it with the product, and it doesn't sit right with me at all, any of that, and I'm not really sure why. I would rather have an Oberheim with the words Oberheim written on it for my own personal use. I'd feel better about that, but knowing that it's not actually got any real connection with Tom Oberheim, I'm not too certain. Also, there's the implications on the price. A Behringer UBXA would probably go for sub £1,000 maybe, and a real Oberheim OBXA. That's not going to be a budget synth. Surely not.
So are you suggesting that the use of OBXA in the Oberheim logo has been done so that they can up the ante a little bit in terms of...
I can't... It could be in Profit 5 ballpark price-wise.
But then, given that we all know that it's a Behringer, and we all know that it was the UBXA, and they've just stuck the badge on because they own the badge, would we fall for that?
Well, we seemed to do that with Midas, didn't we? They didn't drop all the Midas prices when they bought that. So I think to Uli, this is now just an Oberheim product, part of his Music Tribe collection. I don't know. I
think it's... I mean, my opinion, for what it's worth, it's great that something like this will exist in terms of the technology, and it will put, hopefully, we haven't heard this thing yet properly, hopefully it'll put that sound with that interface in the hands of a great many people, and that's a good thing. Ultimately, that's a good thing.
If it sounds exactly right and it's a decent price... Yeah. And even if, like said, they were planning on doing it at 800 quid, and then they started saying, "Oh well, we'll do it for £1,000 because we're going to give Tom Oberheim 200 quid everyone," that I'd be up for that. Yeah,
But the thing is, and my problem with not what Behringer do as a whole, but with this is that it is slightly disrespectful because Tom is still alive and kicking, and we all stand on the shoulders of giants like him, including Uli Behringer. Without people like Tom Oberheim and Dave Smith and all of the others, these people wouldn't have... Well, certainly, what would people like Uli Behringer be copying, Or should I say, paying homage to? Let's allegedly. So there is just that kind of disrespectful thing to it. Whether I don't know whether I'll buy this or not. I want a nice analog poly synth, but this might or might not be it. But the one thing, there's lots of chat in the chat room about, Gibson let the Oberheim thing lapse, and then they gave it back to Tom, and then Tom didn't really do anything with it, and then Behringer come along, and legally they've done nothing wrong. They've just done what many companies have done. It just says a lot about the business acumen of many of our heroes, the Tom Oberheims, the Dave Smiths, the Peter Vogels, the Bob Moogs, and all of these. They're more concerned about producing brilliant synthesizers and giving artists something really great to play with than they are at making money and being great businessmen. And I like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And people that are fans of these great synth designers would, of course, buy whatever. If Tom called his new company, instead of Oberheim, he called it Tom. Everybody would go buy those synthesizers.
Exactly. Yeah.
With the thing with the circuits though is I don't think there's a consistent principle happening when people talk about it, and here's where I might disagree, because he should pay, Behringer should pay Tom for the circuit. Using the logo and stuff, I would say is tacky. It's legal and it's fine, but it's tacky. But the thing is that they can use those circuits now because, again, it's been described if there's a technology that's come out, your patent, your protection for that only lasts so long, and the reason that is so that other people can expand on that technology. So regardless of the field it's in, if it's automobiles or whatever, you can use that technology and it can grow because other people are going to be able to build on that. And that happens in the synth world too. Now, when it comes to Behringer, people get really upset about that, but I don't hear people complaining that the Roland, the Jupiter XM or Jupiter X, has a modeled Moog filter. It has a modeled sequential filter. My King Korg has models of Moog and sequential and Oberheim filters. Nobody's getting upset about that. All of our Eurorack stuff, which comes in so many different filter types, and nobody's getting upset about that. Or even when one of these companies that we are offended on their behalf, like Sequential, for instance, like, oh, Behringer's going to put out a clone of a Prophet. They should be paying Dave Smith. Is Dave Smith paying for a ladder filter that he's put in other synthesizers, or whatever it was that was put into the Pro 3?
Yeah.
Or these type of things happen all the time, and all over across many synthesizers. This has an SVF filter in it also. Is Oberheim being paid for that? And so the principle that I'm trying to get at here, I know I talk like mush, but the principle is that this stuff happens and it's legal and it's not immoral. It's how our laws are designed to work to allow the technology to be put out. Now, just one brief thing in addition to that. Behringer as a company for very little money could gain so much public goodwill if they then, not because they have to or because they've done something immoral, but just because it would be a tribute to a great synthesizer if they went and they said, hey, we're going to give you a small portion of every one of these sold.
Yeah.
That would earn a lot of goodwill for them. They don't have to, make it a collaboration or anything. Just say, hey, we're gonna make sure he's taken care of. That's awesome, but they don't have to.
No, which is what Dave Smith did with the OB6, didn't he? There's clearly some agreement between the two because it was, it's done. So, look, Tom Oberheim is 84 years old. I don't think we will see. It's not like he's not Dave Smith. I don't know how old Dave Smith is, but he's considerably younger.
Early
I guess
70s, I think.
Yeah, so he's probably good.
70.
10 to 15 years younger than Tom, and he's probably got a bit more oomph left to do it, whereas as Tom maybe hasn't. I mean, I can't speak for the guy. I don't know him, but I think maybe Tom is just like, that's it, it's done, whatever. And we're not. I don't think we'll hear anything about it from him for various reasons. But it's. I just think, like you say, I think it's tacky, not illegal, unfortunately. But it would be nice if they did something and said, "Hey, look, even if they set up a foundation or a trust fund, in his name and said, look, we're going to do this because we understand how important you are, and if it wasn't for you, stuff like this, we wouldn't be making it." So it does smack of, slightly tacky kind of business practice, but there you go. We come to expect no lesser thing from discussions when we talk about this company. But
the real question is, though, are you going to buy one?
Who, me?
Well,
or anyone?
No. Would we refuse to buy one out of principle, or would we still buy it?
That's a good question. I mean, if I desperately wanted an Oberheim OBXA or similar, I have options. I would probably, I don't know. I'd like to think that my morals would stand up to the test and say no, but. I have a couple of pieces of Behringer equipment here because it gave me things that I wanted that I couldn't afford on the used market. So, I can't say that I'm better than anyone else.
I've got no problem with Behringer as a whole. It's just this particular one doesn't sit as well as the others have done. So, but I still probably would buy it though. That's how shallow I am.
If you are principled, and many of us are, and you have the funds, and you want to do the right thing, you go and buy an OB6. Yeah. If you're not too worried about that, or you seriously don't think that there's anything wrong with it, and you can't afford an OB6, well, you have an option. We're just kind of passing comment here, but there's there are other things around there. Heathcliff in the chat room's just said he's more excited about the Polivoks. So am I. I'd rather have something that does something new and different to everything else rather than too much nostalgia. He says, surrounded by 30 and 40-year-old synthesizers. But no, I mean, if I'm in the market, I mean, I buy all these second hand. If I'm buying a brand new synth, then I'm going to be looking for something I don't have, and so I want something new. If I'm going to buy, so there you go. Shall we talk about the other Behringer elephant in the room. We've got to, really, because finally they have announced this.
Dan here with Behringer. The time's finally arrived. You've all been asking for it.
Well, didn't mean to do that. It's gone all funny. Oh, I've gone to one of Jamie's shows. Stop that. There's a bit of free advertising for Jamie there. I don't know why.
Jamie's show's on every Sunday.
Indeed. I don't know why it did that. But anyway, look. It's doing it again. Let me stop. Go away. Right. Technical hitch. But anyway, Behringer RD-9 is here. Coming out in a couple of months, I think. We're going to see that on the shelves. Finally, everyone's been going mad for it. It's coming out. Ben, over to you.
Yeah, it sounds great. It sounds 100% authentic from what I can tell.
Yep.
It seems as though the problems that they had with the RD-8 have been ironed out in the firmware, and yeah, interesting. I think I probably get more use out of this one than the RD-8 myself. I just think, well, they've both been used to death, haven't they? Let's be honest, but I think you can probably do more maybe with the RD-9 sound wise.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, it's just coming back to haunt me all the time. Sorry, Jamie. Yeah, I mean, it's just like there are so many options out there to get the I would say the RD-909, the TR-909 sound, the 909 sound, and there has been for 20 odd years, more probably. I don't know. This doesn't appeal to me. Just like the RD-8 hasn't appeared in here because I've got the Cloud. I've got the Roland Cloud, so I've got an 808 there.
Yeah.
I've got a 909 there.
I don't think I'd be queuing up outside the shops for it,
no,
you know.
And I've got drum machines that have those samples in, and I've got plugins that have those samples in. I'm just not that crazy about those machines to get one, but I know that there are lots of people who would. Would you be one of those, Cryss?
Probably not for the RD-9. I think it's a great sounding. You know, the 909 sound is great sounding. I probably don't spend enough time in the genres that are really popular with the 909 to make an effort to buy one. And I have got some of those sounds in the Uno drum for when I want to have that in hardware. But I mean, as it's been said already, like even somebody like me who's not really what's the big umbrella term for stuff like trance and techno and acid music?
Shit.
Send complaints to.
I'm only joking. I'm only joking. I'm only joking. I've got nothing against those kinds of music.
EDM? Are you thinking about EDM?
Is that considered? EDM?
I don't know. I hate genres.
I wouldn't say electronic. I mean, electronic would be a bigger umbrella, like that would include stuff like ambient. But whatever it is, I'm not spending enough time there. But I'm really happy because I know Marshall has been waiting to get hold of one of these, and I know he's going to make some great trance music with it. I was just thinking about this before the show. Like, you know, I've got Easy Drummer 2 that has 909 stuff in it. I've got samples from Mars. The Reverb.com has free sample packs with all these vintage stuff. And then I can't remember even what else I have. But there's so much of it around. But I think if you really are into the hardware, that this is a cool unit. And also, doesn't it look great? I mean, it looks so 80s. The 808 doesn't really look 80s to me. It looks very like late 70s, but that 909 look is fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let's actually watch the video now without further interruptions or
Daniel
plugging.
Behringer, the time's finally arrived. You've all been asking for it. Introducing the RD-9. With its iconic sound being made famous by the likes of 808 State, Daft Punk, Madonna, and so many more.
I mean, it looks nice. It's got the right buttons on it. I'll give it that. And it does have this authentic mode, so you can switch between like an original, because they've added some features, like tuning of the kick and the hi-hats and something like that. But you can bypass those if you want to, so that's nice. It gives you the option of the best of both worlds, and then it's also got the wave designer built in as well, which the RD-8 had, but the originals obviously didn't. I don't know. I like the sound. I've always liked the sound of a 909.
Yeah.
And
those features that they've added in there, like the tuning and the decay on the bass drum, I think it also has like a compressor built in there, or some sort of, I can't remember what they call it, wave something. But
design,
it sounds amazing. It sounds really good. I'd have to say, I'd be tempted if one came up used really cheap, like $175 or $150 or something. I'd totally snap it up.
Yeah, I guess this is what's the RD-8 went for $299. Is that right?
I think it's a $329 now. Let me
so it's sort of $350. I guess this can't be too far off. I must say I did like what Andrew said in the chat room, which I thought was rather amusing. Because where's the other? This is the question that nobody has asked: is where is the other guy that used to do the Behringer videos? Because it used to be him, young guy, English guy. Yeah. Forget his name now. And there was Anna as well, the Italian girl.
Yeah, you liked her, didn't you?
I had to think about Anna. And there was the German guy who did a lot of the modular stuff. But we're not seeing any of those. This guy is up front and centre. He's poster boy now for Behringer. Because he used to work for Roland, I think.
I think one of you guys made fun of his hair last week.
Yeah, still
and
do.
I just want to say that I'm intensely jealous of his hair. I love his hair.
Well, he's
having
got some,
having like fairly curly hair. Like if I could get my hair to do that, I would love it.
Yeah, me too.
This is how my son, like every morning, although he hasn't been doing it for a long while because they've not been going to school. But he would come in to our bedroom every morning and demand to use my wife's dressing table and hairdryer to get that look. So it's been quite nice to not have to worry about him and his coiffured hair. We're all looking a bit mangy at the moment, but yes, young and youthful, not jealous at all. But they've added things like this tuning on the hi-hats, and then on the kick drum there's the depth and pitch as well. So that these little extra features, which again we've often said on this show, if you're going to do something new, add something to it. But at the same time, give us our the ability to turn it off, which you can do here. You can actually turn off that those modern features, but on the whole, it looks slightly different to what we've seen before. But they've now finalised it, and it's coming out soon. So I guess we shall see. We'll wait for a price.
They've got the look and sound of it spot on. It's whether anybody actually needs anything. Anything like that now, isn't it? That's the question.
Yeah. As Manny says, hair is overrated, which is, I suppose, is quite true. It's in, somebody did say, I noticed somewhere, they've got the hi-hat sound, which was a sample on the original. So, how have they got that? Is there going to be any comeback on that one? But who knows? I doubt it. Because like everyone's saying in the chat room, and we've said it, there are so many sample sets out there that bear that sample sound. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. That's our Behringer stuff for this week. The RD-9 is now in production and will be with us fairly shortly. So let's see what we've got here. What's the time? So it's 9 o'clock. So we've got a few more news topics to go through. Not many. Shall we make our announcement?
Yeah.
Oh, go on.
Should we do this? We're now bang in the middle of the show. We can probably peak viewership.
Okay. Wait, let me say it. Go on then.
Go on then.
Right. Okay, everyone. We've been doing this now for continuously for 43 weeks. Probably more, because we did 3 shows that didn't really we didn't count in the official count. So this is kind of we're close to getting to a year in, and we've learnt a lot. We've learnt an awful lot about doing this kind of thing. We are so chuffed that you people come back to watch us week in, week out. You know, our viewer numbers have just shot up. I wonder if maybe the word's spreading around the internet. We just love the fact that you are so consistent with your support, and we love the fact that you come back week after week after week and you join in the show. And we've had some really great guests, but I'm afraid we're going to have to announce that we are splitting up. No, we're not splitting up. We're not the Beatles.
No. Jupiter Boy says you're introducing a subscription service.
Dang, it leaked. No. So we thought long and hard. So when we started doing this, we thought, where is the best place to do this? What the best time for everyone in the world? Because we know we have a global audience. Are we going to do this on YouTube? Are we going to do this on Facebook? We started off using open source free software, Skype and OBS. It was all a bit rough around the edges, but we carried on. We made some decisions. You guys backed us all the way. We now have this, this platform that we use that we're quite, adept with and fairly competent with. We want to move on. We want to move on to, something, maybe a bit easier for everyone to join in with. Sundays are a great day of the week because we're all nice and relaxed. But of course, this time of the evening for us, certainly here in the UK and then further east in Europe, it's getting on a bit, and we've got Monday mornings coming up and we're thinking about work. And we don't want to congest the airwaves too much. And so we have made a decision. From next week, which will be February the 5th, the Pro Synth Network show will be moving from Sundays to Fridays, and we are going to be on air from Friday the 5th of February 2021 from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. We're changing the dates and the times. So this is our last Sunday show, and we are going to move to Fridays 7 till 9. So you finished your work, you've had your dinner, you can now put your feet up on a Friday evening before the weekend kicks in, and get 2 hours of music technology chat from boring farts like us. And so there you go. There's our announcement. Guys, do you have anything to add to that?
Chris?
I would just like to point out that we haven't just thought, oh yeah, we're just going to stick our hand in and pick out a day of the week. We spoke to some people, they spoke to us, and they said, this would be good. You'll hopefully increase your viewership and the amount of people that can come and watch you. Aaron just said in the chat room, is that 11 a.m. Pacific? It is. So we will be on from 7 p.m. UK, 8 p.m. Central European time, and then it's going to be 11 p.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. on the East Coast. So yeah, just an hour earlier really, but we're going to do it on a Friday. And we've chosen that because hopefully, I think, most people will be able to get to see us, and please spread the word, because now we've got a congested kind of schedule with so many shows coming, and they're all great shows, but we don't want to be stepped on, and we don't want to do the stepping on, and we want to find our own little niche, and we think Friday evenings is going to be the one. So. Gentlemen, anything to add, or shall we move on?
Well, just thanks. Now, if you've been following the chat, this will make a lot more sense. But a big thanks to our to Simon, who is our fifth Beatle to our three Yokos.
Yes. Okay. No, absolutely. Simon had some serious input into this as well. So yeah, thanks for your feedback there. But yeah, it looks like, hopefully, because I was kind of worried that we'd say this and people would go, no, it's the worst time in the world to do it. But lots of people saying good moves, switching to Fridays, and Andrew says he's going to miss us on the Sundays. But look, it gives everyone hopefully some room to breathe, and there are other reasons for us doing this, but we just want to be able to deliver the best show. And one of the things, of course, that we have that we don't. It's just gone out of my head. You have that moment. Just the thing I was going to say has gone completely out of my head. No, it's gone. I'm gonna. Anyway, look, we have. We're going to do this. We're going to. If it fails miserably, then we will probably have to look at it again. But hopefully, it won't.
I think it's a good time slot for us, especially in Europe and the UK. Maybe not so great for our friends over the other side of the Atlantic, like. But
I've just remembered. So the good thing about what we do is that you can watch this anytime. You don't have to join us in the live show. You can watch 2 hours of 3 blokes and some other guests talking rubbish for a couple of hours at any time of the day. So that's the beauty of it. And we'll still be doing this on Facebook and YouTube. But yeah,
and there's already talk of sacrifices being made, and Aaron's going to be joining us on his lunch break to watch it. He's West Coast with me.
I mean, I do wonder. I do panic about doing these things because we've got a kind of good thing going here. Andrew, by the way, Andrew's kind of blaming this on wine. I haven't opened the wine yet, but you've just reminded me to do so. But I do worry about this. But we're now living in a world where most of us are kind of working from home, and some of us are going to stay working from home. And that's one of the reasons I love doing what I do, is that I can tune into all sorts of different programs throughout the day and just have them on there. And if I miss something, I can rewind and watch it again later. But it's we're living in a slightly different world, and I don't think time is hugely important anymore.
So, Gethsemane Music saying, regrettably, I think you'll lose most of your American audience. The attraction is the chat, not necessarily the live content.
Yeah. But then if you look at the figures for some of the other shows that go out during the, that earlier even, there's a good, range of people from all over the world still coming. So, yeah. We can only try it and find out, and if we drop our viewing figures down to single digits, which won't take much doing, then obviously we'll have to rethink it. But
if we lose 5 people, we're gonna. If we lose 5 viewers and go down to single figures.
Yeah. Oh, you just put so much faith in our. No, I mean, I think there's a lot going on, and I think Friday. We looked at it and we thought Friday, let's do it. So there you go. Fridays, 7 till 9, and we kick off this. Yeah, so we're not even going to get a week between shows. We're going to have 5 days, and we'll be back on Friday with our first 7 till 9 show. I will also say that we have put a lot of feelers out for guests this year. We are working on getting some really top-notch guests, which we're going to keep a surprise because they're people you don't normally see on these shows, but we think that they need to have a platform, and so. We're really working hard to bring you really interesting people with really interesting stories that relate to everything that we talk about here. So more news on that as we get it.
And, from Dusty River, we'll do our best to get sponsorships from both New Coke and Crystal Pepsi.
Crystal Pepsi. Oh, do you remember that? Do they still make that? They're not over here.
I don't think so.
No. Yeah, it just never. It never. It's just like you pour a glass of that and you think it tastes like Coke, but it looks like lemonade. My brain didn't.
Oh, it was like Tab Clear.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah,
stuff. It's horrible stuff.
Yeah. Wasn't there like a Coke too? Also, I know there was
probably
New Coke.
Yeah. They messed around with that recipe until they learned their lesson. But anyway, hopefully this is not a messing around with a recipe. It's just cooking it on a different temperature at a different time of day. But we'll do that. So there you go. So please. Share this with anyone that is interested. We will be back from Fridays from 7 p.m. till 9 p.m. UK, and that's 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. East Coast, 8 p.m. Central European. And I honestly last night I checked to see what time it was in Perth to see if Ramsey could actually join us live, but it's only an hour earlier, so it's 3 a.m. instead of 4 a.m. for him. So there we go.
It's getting worse.
I know, it's terrible. It's terrible. Right, let's get back to some news topics. This one has been sat on our list for a few weeks, and it's kind of just got bumped off, so I'm determined to do this. So this is Alexander at Virtual Music, who I know through his work with the Fairlight. He's the guy behind the Fairy Tale Fairlight SD card add-on that really makes a huge difference to how you use a Series 2 Fairlight. But he does a lot of great stuff. and this is one of them. This is a Russian multi-mode filter integrated into Waldorf's Pulse. So it's basically the Polivoks filter. Now, Cryss, I'm going to hand this over to you because this was your thing, and you're more into this than I am, certainly. So can you explain a little bit more about what this does and why it's a good thing?
I don't remember this.
Oh no, you gave this to us.
This was the Polivoks filter for the Pulse.
Yeah.
The Polivoks filter. If somebody's not familiar with it, I mean the classic Polivoks. I don't remember what the model was. Was kind of a Russian take on a mini Moog, and rather ironically named as Polivoks means many voices for a mono synth. But I can say that I've got one of the Erica synths Polivoks filters here, and it is a fantastically good filter. So anything that you would put it on is going to sound amazing. In fact, one of my favorite things is to run my matriarch into the Polivoks, and it is just like eyes roll back into the head, good sounding. So for something, especially, so I don't know much about the Waldorf Pulse, but if you're matching up some of these great classic analog filters to other analog oscillators or even some wavetable synths or something like that, it's going to be really amazing.
Yeah. Shall we have a listen to what this sounds like? Let's play some of these demos here. Well, that's going to get us a copyright strike straight away. I'm not. I should have checked these out beforehand. Let's see what this one does. Anything? No.
We've been blocked.
Yeah. That's a shame because actually, let's see if I can bring this back. Why are we not working? There we go. It does kind of sound quite nice, that, doesn't it? But it costs. So a ready-built kit for self-installation is 195 euros, 234 with taxes. And if you want it installed by Virtual Music, then it's 270 or 330 with taxes. It's only available in small quantities, but if you are a Waldorf Pulse user, and it doesn't say, there was a question in the chat room about which version. I wasn't sure how many versions of the Waldorf Pulse there was, but it doesn't say that it's for either or doesn't include one or the other. So I imagine it's for both. But if you want to learn more, it's just virtual-music.at and then go to the Waldorf Zone on their page, and it'll be able to tell you a bit more about it. But yeah, it's just, I like this kind of homebrew modifications that are very good modifications to take what is effectively quite an old synthesizer. You don't have the Pulse, do you? You have, Ben, you have some Waldorf rack. Oh, you do?
I do. I have the Pulse as well. I've got the Pulse, and I really like it, to be honest. Mm-hmm. But it is very clean sounding, so
right.
This gives it quite a bit of a grittier element. Mm-hmm. But I wonder if I haven't looked into it that much, but it is something that I would consider buying myself. Mm-hmm. But I wonder if you can switch between the original filter and this one once it's installed. How would that be accessible from the front panel, or once you put this in, are you stuck with the Polivoks filter? Because I think you'd have to have two if that was the case.
So it says here all features, and this answers the other question. So it's available for the Waldorf Pulse and the Pulse Plus, which I guess are the two versions of it. And also it does say here the original Pulse filter still remains. So this is in addition to.
It's a plan with no drawbacks then, as far as I can see.
Yeah. Optional filter modulation by oscillator 3. I mean, for what is it, €234? This is quite a neat little upgrade. I think it's good, well priced as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, there you go. So hit Alexander up, Alexander Gulfenberg, who's based out of Austria, and he these are the things that I know him for. And Simon in the chat room will attest to the brilliance of the Fairy Tale SD card drive for the Series 2 Fairlights, which just makes accessing all of the content just so much. It basically gives you 4 floppy drives, virtual floppy drives. It's a dead good thing, and he's got loads of stuff on there. He does loads of great work, restoration work as well. This guy does know his stuff, so you can buy one of these with confidence. Yeah. So virtual-music.at for that. Right. Let us do this, because this was our discussion point for the week. This is, let's bring this one up here. Make sure I get the right screen. Just one there. Here we go. So, the question was, does your environment affect your creativity and enjoyment of music? If so, how? And by environment, we mean the room that you're in. Does it affect your creativity? Do you have to have it laid out in certain ways? Does the lighting make a difference? Does the soundproofing make a difference? Does the carpet make a difference? What is it for you that does help your creativity and enjoyment of music? So, for example, let's go through some of the answers here. Simon Owen says, yes, it does. During the most of last year, my working from home office was my home studio space. So the last thing he wanted to do was at the end of a working day, was to stay in that room and be creative. Simon, I know exactly how you feel, because this is also my day's working space as well. It's difficult. Native VS said, yes, massively, but the biggest creative source of inspiration is a good deadline. Very true point indeed. Jim McCulloch, absolutely, the cleaner the space, the more mellow my music is. That's interesting. And vice versa, the messier the space, the more chaotic the music becomes. That's kind of interesting. That's psychoanalytical there, isn't it? It's kind of getting into some deep stuff. Max says, don't get me started. Okay, we won't. Fair enough. Kem agreed, yes, for both listening and creating. Torsten, who I know has built a very, very unique environment for himself because of the fact that he lives in a fairly small place. He's had to really kind of make that work for him. Damon Summers, he likes to have everything at hand so productive juices don't get interrupted. That's very true. Michael Whalen, 100% yes, the environment you have as the place where you create either empowers you or it doesn't. I mean, we've seen Michael's place. He's really got a wonderful little room going there. What else have we got here? Fox Spire says yes, but specifically the ergonomics of everything in reach. This wasn't an issue as a younger musician when I only had 3 or so instruments. It's very true. And there's a bunch of others all pretty much saying the same thing, that it really does have a difference. So we'll go to the chat room in a bit and pull out some comments from there. For example, here Asio says, when I'm working in my cinema room, he has a cinema room, I'm more distracted than when I'm in my indoor swimming pool room. I think he's having us on there, but it is true. I mean, I know some people who can sit on the sofa in the lounge where the family are, put some headphones on, and have something small on their lap maybe, or even a laptop, and do something. I could not do that.
I can't do that.
No, and I mean this room, I everything is in here, and it's a small room, and it's also my office at daytime. So I've got the Cobalt 8 over here at the moment. That's going to come off tonight because I need that space to do my day job. So everything kind of has to get moved around and fitted in. I'm not happy with it, but it's all I've got. Cryss has got what I think is a very clean looking environment, although I don't think we see what's over to the other side there. Or is that the other side? Kind of, yeah. Anyway, and Ben, of course, has got the bloody cockpit of the Starship Enterprise behind him. So, yeah, I mean, guys, I'm going to go to you first, Ben, because this is a fully functional studio, and you're a studio guy and have been for many years, and so I guess you kind of know what works for you and what doesn't. So what kind of thought process did you go into when you created that room in order to maintain the creative flow?
There's definitely something in the environment influence you and changing the decisions that you make based on the environment. I've been in some great studios all over, like I've been in Strawberry, I've been in other places that I can't remember, Liverpool Music House, loads of great. Oh, what was Parr Street? Parr Street Studios. Been in there, and they give you like a real buzz about them, you know, and like having an all-night lock-in in the studio, and being left to do things yourself with no influence from anyone else. You come up with things that you would never come up with just like sat at your computer. So I've since I was doing things like that, I've always wanted to create an environment for myself that kind of I buzzed off in the same way as I did when I was in these bigger studios. So I realised that to do that, I needed a big mixer desk. You know, I needed nice monitoring. I needed some rack effects, and but then the bonus of it being your own is that you can have everything so it ergonomically suits you. You know, like all your favourite things are close at hand. So I'd say that it's a massive factor on your creativity, the environment, and this place is 1,000 times better than what I had before, but I could still refine it and get it, you know, even better for just that smooth workflow, you know.
So, I mean, we see you've got like a rack of keyboards to your right there. You've got a bunch of modules and a mixer over to the left-hand side. And then behind you, you've got, I guess it's your main studio desk with racks either side and the big monitor and the speakers either side.
Yeah.
How much thought went into that design? Was it dictated by the room size, the fixtures and the fittings?
Well, no, because everything was dictated with the previous room. So
right,
that's why I went down this rack, like nearly, like the majority of my stuff is rack, 19-inch rack, because the previous room I had was, you wouldn't have fit a double bed in it, you know. And
no, quite, it was.
So,
I remember those days.
Yeah, so I was like really cramped in there. So I wanted all these synthesizers around me, but I didn't have anywhere to put them. So I went down the rack route there. But then, obviously, when I got the use of this room, that kind of changed, and a couple of synths that I'd propped up against a wall could be used again. And I cried for several days over synths that I'd sold because I didn't have the room for them. And I really wish I so regret getting rid of the Super JX10. I love that thing. I just don't know why I got rid of it.
Before I go to Cryss, I just want to ask. So you've got windows behind your monitor there.
Yeah.
At the back. What do you see when you open the blinds there? Is it just like, is it street level? Is it what?
It's street. It's the garden. Yeah, I can see the garden from there.
Okay, because the one thing that I have always wanted is to have like my studio set up so that my main kind of compositional writing area looks out over a fantastic view.
Yeah, it's not a fantastic view.
Well, you live in Warrington, wherever you go, you know. But that's something I would absolutely love. At the moment, I've got like a window just here, and it looks into my back garden. There's some trees and stuff, but it's not very inspiring. But that's kind of what I'd like. Okay, so let's move to Cryss. Now, Cryss clearly has a really nice dedicated space, but it always seems very minimal. We only ever see like a couple of keyboards, and you got guitars around the edge. There's some nice lighting. You've got some nice kind of wall hangings going on there. What kind of thought went into creating your environment?
Yeah, so I think personality, our DNA, which affects our personality, I think really comes into play with a lot of this. And so people tend to think of personality as being something that's more nurture than nature, but I think as time goes on, we're finding it to be actually the opposite. And so when we consider how people set up their spaces, so in another room in our house, my wife has an office because she's working from home now. And she's got a lot of stuff in there, but traditionally she's organized a lot of it now, but it traditionally was kind of a big mess, really, to be in the way that I would walk in there and see it, like, geez, how can you find anything? But for her, it was a type of thing where she knew where everything was, and the clutter doesn't bother her. She's more concerned about having the stuff where she can see it. And so for me, I can't work like that. Like I start going nuts if the house is too messy or if my room is too messy. So a clean, orderly environment really helps me get into focusing on whatever task that I'm doing, like making music. So in this room, there may be some things I'm going to change about. I'll tell you why I did it, why it looks the way it does. There's kind of two looks that I've really enjoyed, and I have a friend that's just a insane Beatles fan, and so he has this. Basically, the living room of his house is converted into this music room. So he's got couches and a fireplace, but then the walls are lined with guitars and basses. He's got an original Ludwig, Ringo style kit. It's full of Beatles memorabilia, like lunch boxes of Beatles albums all around. And it would be considered like a lot, very busy and a lot of clutter. Not messy, but there's a lot of stuff in there. But there was something about that space that is so warm and inviting, and I always like that. But how I probably am more geared is like minimalistic, clean, but then lots of color. I kind of like the look of like wider studios, but that have things in there to bring out color. Yeah. So I've been pretty. I'm slowly starting to change my stuff in here, and I may eventually change the wall color to reflect that. But some of the things that I've done, and it's had to change in the last 5 years quite a bit, because I used to really only have one or two keyboards, and then it was all the rest guitars and basses and amps. And so my needs have changed, and I've been adapting to that. But one of my favorite things that we did is this wood that's going across, that's holding up the guitars there, is flame maple, so it looks really beautiful. And so cut it down, and my dad actually finished it so that it will last a long time. Then we mounted it, and then it serves a functional purpose of being able to grab the guitar that I want to grab. And I've got 9 guitars on the wall that are accessible to me. 2, 4, 6, 8, yeah. But the other thing is that they look nice. I like looking at my gear. I like it when I come in here. I like to see it, like, oh, this is great looking. And so what I did is up top there is I ran some LED lighting, and on the other side of my studio, which is got a 3-tier synth rack, and just to the side of me, I've got my matriarch and Euro rack stuff that I lit all that up. So one switch turns on lights that light up my synth rack and the stuff in there, and a few other lighting. Like I just did underneath lighting on my desk, so that when I turn the studio on, even if I don't have any lights on, it has this just nice colorful glow to it. Yeah. And that's again, it's not anything that functionally helps me make music, but it puts me in the right mindset. Yeah. In fact, I've got the ceiling light on right now, which is not how I like to be in here usually, because it's too bright. I want to be kind of dark, but have all the colored lighting going. So that's been very important to me. And then I try to arrange it to be a functional workspace. Like try to think about how things are laid out, and there's always got to be some compromises. I mean, this is not a huge room. It's a good size, but it's not huge. So figuring out where I'm going to have a whole bunch of guitar amps and keyboards, I've kind of divided the room in a way. And so I've got keyboards off to one side for the most part, and they're all routed into my interface. And then on this other side, I have a small workbench where I build stuff or I repair things. And then guitar amps and microphone, I've got a SM57 down there kind of permanently that I just move to whatever cab I want to use. So that this space that I'm sitting in here is really the main spot in the room. And when I'm tracking guitars, whether they're into real amps or into Amplitude on my computer, I can sit and do pretty much everything here. I've got space for a keyboard that whatever I'm working on can sit on my desk, or I can use the Moog One that's sitting next to it. And that's been kind of a nice... I'm feeling like I really like the way things are laid out, and said I may change the color of the room a bit and make it a little more, kind of white and bright. I guess that's pretty much how I've set it up. But that issue to me, when I see other people's studios, I always find it very interesting how things are laid out, what it looks like, and just recognizing that everybody's got such a different strategy or the things that they prefer. I'm not opposed to making a mess. Like especially if I was just working on my pedal boards the other week, and I made a giant mess in the living room. And I came in, I brought all that stuff in here and made another big mess in here on the floor, and was putting stuff together and zip tie clippings and all that kind of stuff. But I can't leave it like that. It just annoys the hell out of me. So I'll go and I'll clean everything up, and I'm vacuuming and I'm ordering everything. And like, okay, now the world is right again, and I can sit and do some recording.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm in this position myself where I've got a small room. It's the only room that I can have in the house. I rent my house as well. So, Wagyu posted something up about, when you rent places, you've got to kind of leave them the way you found them. And, they're certainly over here. I don't know what it's like. But, there are rules in rental agreements say you mustn't drill holes. You have to get permission to do this, that, and the other. So I really don't want... I mean, I'd like to acoustically treat this room, but I can't because it means putting stuff up and drilling holes, and I don't want to be doing that and messing things up. And then when we eventually move out, having to revert that back, it's just an extra job that I don't want. But, if you looked in here, and, those that have seen videos of mine from a few years ago, there wasn't any of this. I just had one stand that was over here, and it had a Fairlight on it and an Emax, and that was like not even my Prophecy or my Fusion were mounted up. It was, I kind of, so I had to find a way of putting all this stuff up to make it accessible, and I went for Jasper's stands. But of course, this one here goes right to the floor, so you can see that just there, that's my Alesis Fusion, which I have to play with my toes. But what I seriously do is that this is now the center of my universe, and I then just MIDI up to it, and I think, well, I can't twiddle knobs and stuff, but I make sure that, if I want to do that, I can. I mean, obviously with the DX stuff, there's not a lot of knob twiddling to do. No. But with the drum machine though, the RX5, I have to physically kind of get up and play with that, and then the stuff over there as well. Again, you have to kind of physically go, but everything's MIDI'd up to this. So I can control it all, but it's not ideal because I'd like everything at kind of like waist level to head level around the whole room, so that at any time, if I want to go and mess around with this or mess around with that, I can just go there and do it. But I just don't have the facility to do it. And again, with monitors, I'm using IK Multimedia iLouds, which are very small and compact and give a great sound. But obviously, I'd like something that you see in like Ben's shot there. What are they? Ben?
HS8.
HS8, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd love something similar. I haven't got the space for it, so we all, like you said, we all have to kind of cut our cloth accordingly. I'm still thinking about rearranging this thing to make things a bit more accessible, but it really does. I remember my most productive was when I had a small desk that was about so wide. It had a CRT monitor on the top and a little pull-out shelf with my keyboard on, and sitting on the top, hanging over the, either side was my 49 key controller, and I had a couple of modules, and that was it. And that was my most productive thing because I was in the corner, I had my own little lamp, and I could put my headphones on and do stuff. And yet now here I am in this room surrounded by stuff, and I'm nowhere near as productive, but there you go. So it's, and again, this is also my day job space. So
I think there's definitely a connection between productivity and the amount of gear you've got.
Yeah,
I was always more productive when I had less gear.
Yeah.
Always.
Well, I tried that. I tried to reduce everything. I sold a whole bunch of stuff and ended up with just 1 or 2 keyboards, and I still wasn't as productive because what I did was I replaced those keyboards with plugins. So I had all these plugins to play with. So what I really need to do, I guess, is have a single computer with just 3 or 4 plugins on.
I think where the problem comes from it is that we've got to learn how to use these devices, whether it be a piece of software, a physical piece of hardware. So the more that you have of it, you lose a couple of days getting to grips with it, which would be maybe creating actual music if you just stuck with the same gear.
Yeah.
But
one of the things that it seems like as a common theme is, there's a lot of us that really want to try and gather in the physical world, and so, I want to try this other pedal or this other plugin or this new synth. And then what will happen is we find ourselves with so much gear that we're not using it regularly. And so usually it seems like the response to that is I need to sell gear, which can be a good thing. Like if you just have too much, you have too much. And there's definitely times where I have too many things. I go, I just need to sell some because this is wasteful, and I'm not being I'm not using the gear that I have to its full potential. But I think a lot of it can actually be handled by your mental state and how your attitude about the gear that you do have. So I would say I've got a lot of gear and plugins and everything, and it can be one of those situations where I know my personality like that. I'm always going to be checking out the latest plugin or there's some new synth announced, and I'm checking it out and saying ooh. But to have the kind of strategy that when you do sit down to make music, you got to cut yourself off and give yourself limits.
Yeah.
And I think that can be done actually without having to sell off gear. And so for me now, I'm making a lot more decisions about what I'm going to buy, because when I was just a guitar player, man, I went through so much gear. I've had probably 700 pedals in my guitar playing time, and a lot of those were things I bought to repair and sell. But I mean, I love that kind of constant flow of stuff. But in this time where I'm trying to spend a lot more time recording, I'm actually setting limits for myself, and some of my more recent videos have been doing this, where I get some new stuff for Black Friday. All right, I'm going to use this. I'm going to put it in a song. I'm going to play with it. I'm going to see what it sounds like, what it does, and then I can kind of make a decision there if it's going to be something I'm going to continue to use, if it's worth taking up space, if it's something that's physical. And I think we don't often talk about that enough. It just seems to be like, I want to collect new gear, or I need to sell gear, but without giving mind to what the actual cause is. It's all up here.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I've got this thing in my head right now that I'm expecting a new piece of equipment in the next 4 weeks that hopefully will arrive. And in my head, I'm saying to myself, right, the minute that lands and I get it unboxed and powered in, that is going to be the only synthesizer in my world. And I'm going to spend time with it, and I'm going to get to know it, and I'm going to do stuff with it and it alone. Mm-hmm.
I'm still doing that with the Hydrosynth.
Yeah,
I haven't started that yet.
I still have, Cobalt 8. I still haven't really dived into that as much as I know I could do. Yeah. Other things, even the TD3, I mean, it's a pretty basic thing, but I still, want to spend more time learning about, the ins and the outs and the tricks of doing that. But and even now, there are some, when I got the Z1, it was like, I really want to learn this. I want to know what it can do. And no, I just downloaded a whole bunch of third-party sound banks, and oh man, these sound great, but I've not really got into learning it. But I'm gonna try and stick to that promise that I made myself, that when this new thing arrives, that's going to be my only thing. And I've put it out there publicly now, so that you can all rein me in when I go off on some other flight of fancy.
Yeah, it's a really good thing to do. I mean, I do that with whatever synth that I'm working on for making patches. So right now it's the Summit. So that's the main thing that I play in the evenings, and I'm working on patches. And then, I do have that desire, tonight I really want to play this other thing. Like, again, with the Cobalt, I've got a Cobalt. I've played it for 20 minutes because I allowed myself, like, this is something new. I want to hear it. And I played it and I made a patch and I did that kind of stuff. But I know that I'll get distracted if I say, oh, I'm going to keep working on that. Like, no, you need to work on the Summit.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of been exactly what you're talking about. That's what I'm really trying to put into practice. So when it comes to recording and I spend, what I would consider free time recording, then I'll play around with different things. But when it comes to that time of, okay, now I'm going to know this Summit inside and out, or whatever it was, a Prophet 6, I'm going to know this inside and out. I'm going to nail this. Then I'll be able to move on to the next one.
Yeah. Very true. And I think also when it comes to listening to music as well, which I do try to do a lot of, but it tends to be, and I'm doing less of it. It's funny because we're at home a lot now, but when I'm at home, I've got all this other stuff going on, whether it's this, whether it's the kids, whether it's, work or whatever. And I could never sit down and listen to something. I have to really commit to doing it. It's like yesterday, new Stephen Wilson album came out on Friday. And by the way, if you haven't heard it, go and listen. It's brilliant. It's very electronic, and I had to force myself to sit down and make some time to listen to that properly. And I'm glad I did. But most of my music listening time used to be in the car. I used to wait until I get in the car and then listen to something, or listen to it with a turntable here. I specifically created a room downstairs that used to be our dining room, is now kind of like a games stroke second guest room type thing. So we've got like a sofa bed, and I've got my nice turntable with my nice speakers, and most of the time the kids are in there playing PlayStation, so it kind of knocks that one on the head. So it's a really important thing to find a place where you can sit and listen and appreciate music as well as making it as well. But that's some really good stuff there. And there's lots of comments in the chat room about people's preferences and what they like and what they don't like, and whether they use headphones or speakers, or and where they do things and how they do it. So really, really interesting stuff. And I think it is very important that you make a space that is good for you and what you do, and that it shouldn't be fixed. I'm always worried about nailing things to the wall, and I use that as an adjective more than actually nailing things to the wall. But if you put things in a place where you cannot absolutely move them, and then you find out 6 months later, this doesn't really work for me, it's a heck of a job to adapt that. So you really need to kind of play with that whole thing. I know when I designed this place, I drew it all out on paper, and it kind of works, but now I'm thinking, but luckily, all of these stands are movable or on wheels, so it'll move around.
Hey, Robbie, how to one of the things that people are dealing with is that a lot of people are working from home, just in general, but then also because of COVID. It's like my wife is home because of COVID, is working from home because COVID, I should say. Yeah. She doesn't have it, but you also work from your area that you're sitting at right now, where you make all your music, and you also have your day job that you do from there as well.
Yeah.
How does that being in that same area affect your music time and your creativity? For instance, like they say, don't have a TV in your bedroom because it'll mess with your sleeping habits, because you associate the wrong things and the light and all that. But how does that work out for you, and has there been any strategies that you've taken that kind of help divide that time in your mind between work and your free time and music?
Unfortunately, no. I mean, I sit here, I come in the morning, I turn all the computers on. I have this, my Mac is always on, and that's just my personal stuff. So I'll have Facebook or whatever will be on there, and I'll be watching and commenting as the world goes by. But over here is my workstation, but it's just so easy to get distracted. And then similarly, of an evening, I've sat in this chair for near enough 8 hours, and then I think I want to make something, I want to do something creative, but oh God, I've been in this chair for 8 hours, I've been in this room for 8 hours. I don't want to. I'm going to go down and sit downstairs with the wife, and then I'll put my feet up and sit back a bit, and I don't want to go back upstairs until tomorrow morning. And unfortunately, I mean, this has been my world. This is not COVID. This is my world for the last 10 years. This is how I've done stuff because I've worked from home for the last 10 years. I wouldn't change working from home, but what I would change is I'd have 2 separate rooms. I would have an office and I would have a studio. And that's, you know, something I can't unfortunately do at the moment. But that's how I would do it, because combining, I think somebody said on the Facebook page that, you know, combining the two is just, it's distracting in both senses, because I'll sit here of an afternoon and I look over and I see, I think, oh, I'll just turn that on. I've got nothing, you know, there's nothing pressing at work at the moment. I'll have a little noodle, and that distracts me from a day job. And then I feel guilty. I must, you know, go do this, and vice versa, you know. And you know, on a Wednesday afternoon, I'll always be watching Sonic State, and that'll always be on here, and I'll be working, and kind of I get angry when I get a call, and I think, oh, I've got to turn Nick off now for half an hour. So yeah, I would not recommend this for anyone, but unfortunately, we're kind of. This is it, you know, we're stuck with this. But I've tried to change things, like, you know, with the lighting. So I've got one of these, you can see if I tilt the camera up. So my main light in here now, that looks white on the camera, but it's actually blue. So it kind of gives this, and it works well for this. But I can, you know, it's all Alexa controlled, and I can change the lighting. And that has started to help, because when I'm working, it's daylight white. And then in the evenings, I can change it, and it almost feels like it's changed the room a little bit.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing to do, because it does have an effect on your perceived environment, and using color to kind of affect a change in your mental state. Like, oh, it's bright white, I'm working. Okay, now it's blue, and it's time to make some music. That's interesting.
Yeah. Asio says in the chat room, I used to be on the road for work and got mad when I got a call or arrived at a client and the album I was listening to hadn't finished yet. I know that feeling. I used to be very mobile, and used to get really. I'd even sit in the car park, wait until the song had finished or the album had finished before I went in and saw a client. So I can that resonates definitely. But yeah, lighting, I think, has a part to play, and we're fortunate now, you know, in the 21st century, that we can have a light bulb that just fits in your regular light socket, but now can do different mood settings, and it does have an effect. And certainly when the lights are like this, or I have it blue, purple, I think is another one that I kind of like, or some shade of purple, I can still see everything clearly, and yet the overall mood of the room is different to what it is during the working hours. And summer also helps, you know, this time of year when it gets dark early, it doesn't, you know, it's not very nice. But no, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, one of the other challenging things can be, like, if you have people living with you, if you have a spouse or something, or a roommate, because that's been a problem that if I work in here, you know, if I'm meeting with somebody, it's on the back patio or something in normal times, you know, of course, and my wife, you know, would probably not be home because she would be at her location anyway. But during these times, like, she'll come in and she doesn't know if I'm working or I'm playing. Yeah. And that's just the nature of how things go. So, you know, she's like, are you recording right now, or are you doing something, or can I talk to you? Like, well, yeah or no. That kind of that makes things a little more complicated.
Yeah. I think, you know, when I come in here and I shut the door, they know, you know, it's either work or it's play, but don't disturb. Anyway, look, we've got a couple more things we want to cover before we say goodnight. Really interesting discussion. Thanks for everybody's contributions, both in the chat room, on the Facebook page, and for you guys as well. It'd be really interesting to learn how and why you're set up as you are. Let's just mention this, because we said we would, and the day is tomorrow. It is #FFS. This is the initiative that I think was Inky's original idea, that then got taken up by Andrew Brooks, and he ran with it, and he set up the hashtag February Filter Sweep, or #FFS. And this is in response to an increasing number of copyright claims on YouTube videos that feature filter sweeps. So a filter sweep, you know, something like this. Is all that is required. Just video yourself doing a filter sweep, and it could be as extreme or as sublime as you like, and then post it to YouTube. and hashtag it FFS, and also hashtag February Filter Sweep. I think just the two of them. Because, I think we mentioned this last week, Rands had got a copyright claim from the Chemical Brothers and some other obscure British dance act in the 90s for literally just doing a filter sweep on one of his Roland modules. And I know that I've heard reports of other people who have been creating videos for this specific thing, have uploaded it to YouTube but not yet published it, and have already had copyright claims. And a lot of the time it's very similar artists or the same artists as other people. It seems like whether it's the algorithm or whether it's just some nerd out there that's just thinking, oh well, so Chemical Brothers use a filter suite, so every time we hear one, we're just going to strike it out.
Let's break YouTube.
Let's break YouTube. So let's get behind this. All you've got to do, and it doesn't have to be professionally done, as long as the audio is there, just post it up onto YouTube, put the hashtag FFS, and anything else that you want on there, and just broadcast your filter sweep or filter sweeps. I know Starsky Carr had got like 20 filter sweeps lined up,
hasn't he?
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see. And
he was, I think, the original that I had heard of getting hit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was, and then Rand's got it, and then everyone else seems to be finding this, and it's just a weird thing. And as Wagyu says, it's a monetization claim. It's not a copyright strike. A lot of people are referring to these as copyright strikes. They're not. Copyright strikes are a bad thing on YouTube. You get 3 of those, you are out. These are just copyright claims. That's the official term for it on YouTube, is a copyright claim. And it's just an algorithm or a company that sits there and says, you're using a piece of music that we own the publishing rights to, therefore, under the rules of YouTube and whatever, we can now monetize your video because you're using our music. So how they monetize it is up to them, whether they place an advert next to the video, whether they place an advert in the video itself and on the bottom of the screen, or however. And it doesn't always necessarily apply to all territories. I've had some copyright claims that will say that they only claim it in some of these obscure places, but I'm okay to play it in the United States. So it's just a weird thing, but it's annoying, especially for those people who might be relying on monetization for some kind of or part of their income on YouTube.
Sorry, I just want to add.
Go
on. It may also be good to just put a 20 seconds or 30 seconds of why you're doing it. Because if they are checking up on these claims, it might be nice to say, hey, this is what's going on, and so they can get familiar with it. I don't know how much effect this can have, but it's something that I'm going to add to my own video that I'm going to do right after the show. Mm-hmm. So also, please, if you're on Facebook and you're part of our Synth Network Facebook group, later today, like probably 3 or 4 hours from now, I'll be putting up a post that everybody can post their FFS videos too. So if you want to check out everybody else's filter sweeps, it should be a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
But I'll provide something to a place to put those.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'm sure that we're going to see a lot of these. Andrew, I know you're still in the chat room, so I'm just going to ask, does it have to be tomorrow? Is it just tomorrow, or can we do it throughout the month? Or I guess it doesn't really matter. It's just that we do it, I guess. But let us know in the chat room. I think the focus is tomorrow to do it on the 1st. So I'm going to have to do mine at some point. I don't know, because I haven't done it yet. That's why I got the Cobalt axe. I thought I'd use that as a thing. But anyway. So yeah, FFS. Hashtag FFS. February Filter Sweep. There's some details about it on our Facebook page. But of course, you can also hit Andrew up for any information. Just post a short video of you doing a filter sweep. Video it. Get the audio, throw it up on YouTube, add a hashtag, and that's it. And then let us know if you get a copyright strike. Manny says in the chat room, I had a copyright strike for a Chopin piece. Yeah, because Chopin's really looking for the money these days, isn't he? Took a month to get cleared up, but it does. And I think I said this last week. Part of my job is creating video content for my company. We use library music, and it's all cleared. But still, some of these algorithms pick it out, and they do eventually, relinquish their claim, and as long as you can provide evidence of ownership or licensing. So there you go. But yeah, Andrew says get them up whenever, the more the merrier. So it doesn't have to be February the 1st, but from tomorrow, I guess. But yeah, I guess if we can hit YouTube on Monday, that'd be fantastic. Right, last news topic of the day is this one. Again, I'm going to kind of come to Cryss on this because he probably knows more about this than I do. This is the news that Universal Audio have launched 3 new guitar pedals, but of course we all know guitar pedals aren't just for guitars. They can be used in all sorts of things. So there are 3 different pedals. There's the Golden Reverberator. There is the Starlight Echo Station. And there is the Astra Modulation Machine. Now, I have to say that as pedals go, these
They look awesome, don't they?
They are the dog's leathery bits, aren't they? They really are. They look absolutely stunning. And so they should, because they are $399 each.
And Cryss is going to have them all.
And Cryss is going to buy them all. That's what he said to us. He said he's going to milk our fund package and go off and buy those and then run away. No, these are coming in spring, so in the next month or 2 we should start seeing these appear in the shops. But I have to say, I mean, they really do. I wouldn't want these to be stomp boxes because I wouldn't want to put my feet on these. These just look amazing.
Fantastic,
and they sound really, really nice too. I did have a demo video, but it's all gone now. But anyway, these are premium guitar pedals. Cryss, is this the first time that UA have done guitar pedals?
That I wouldn't know. Seeing these come out, it has been kind of interesting. Of course, UAD does a lot of stuff. And I didn't realize that they make, these pedals can be for anything, synthesizers, guitars, and of course their recording software and their Apollo interfaces are for anybody really. But I'm guessing that the company has a lot of guitarists in it. It seems like compared to other companies. And when they did the live stream for these, they had 2, really great, well-known people, which is James Santiago, who was at least formerly with Voodoo Lab, and also Tor, is it Morgensen? I can't remember if it's something like that is his last name, who used to be the main guy at TC Electronic until Music Tribe took over. And very well-respected guys. Both of those guys did a lot of very good work with those companies. So it's great to see them working on new products. And certainly these sound good. They look good. A little concerned about how highly priced they are compared to, you're looking at digital pedals, and per feature, they're not doing so well compared to, say, Strymon offerings that are in similar price ranges. But I don't know. Like I said, the only downfall to me would be the price. A lot of the videos are showing this stuff on guitars, but there's some by a store, I think it was like Vintage King or something, that play them through with a Moog Matriarch, and so you can check those out if you're a little more synth centric. But with Strymon stuff, like I don't feel like I need a whole lot of this, even though they sound good. Like the Reverb's got the old Lexicon 224 sound. The Astra is the one that's most interesting to me, and that's the modulation one. And so it's got a Boss CE1 chorus modeled, which is the main reason I would be interested in it. I've had a couple of the originals, and I love them, but they're gigantic pedals. They're huge. And when you're trying to fit them onto a compact pedal board, they take up too much room. Yeah. So and it also has like a flange and tremolo. And then, so I think they come with 3 models on there. And then after you register the pedal, you can get a couple more models for free. So for the Astra, you can get the MXR Phase 90 and... I can't remember what the other one is. It's like a harmonic tremolo that's dynamic. You can have it set up to follow your input signal to change the rate. But I thought they're interesting, and just as a concept, it's something that we have mentioned and talked about in previous shows, that when you have software companies that are making really great sounding software, it's kind of nice to see them come into at least a different area of a hardware market. Last week we had the joke that was put out, or I guess the funny bit from Valhalla that they were going to be thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, all of us are so excited because we might get a Valhalla reverb pedal or, something. And it turned out to be a joke. And it was like, oh, man. But here's another great example where they've invested so much time and money into these algorithms that they're using in their UAD software that it makes sense that you could hit a wider market by you've already got the software. You just need to put the hardware together. So I think they should be popular, but the thing is that at $399, they're really shooting high on these. Like I don't think I would pick up one new because that's for what you're getting, it's pretty high.
Yeah.
I mean, $299 would be like, yeah, it's a lot of money, but they sound good, so maybe I'll do it. But I don't know. What do you guys think about them?
Personally, I mean, I don't have any pedals here. I'll use effects that are used for guitars or supposed to be used for guitars, but plug-in versions of them. But I don't have any pedals. I won't be buying these. Say, $400. That's a used synth. It's something. It's not my priority. But when you look at these and you look at the build quality, obviously it's only a visual thing. We haven't had these. They look like they weigh a ton. They look like they're made out of nice cold metal, and they're going to stand up to all the rigors of a pedal board. And they just look, and I'm sure they sound because UA have that reputation. They're not going to sound awful. I'm sure they're going to be really, really good. What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I think they look brilliant from what I've heard. They sound brilliant, but I think £400 or whatever it is on a pedal, I can't justify that. That's a synth.
Yeah.
And even though effects contribute probably a significant amount to the production sound, I just can't get my head around that. If I can have a synth for that amount of money, I'm not going to buy a pedal.
As Corrosive Abuser says in the chat room, you can buy a really good rack mount effect module. I mean, I still want to get an SPX and a Rev 5 or something and throw those into a rack, and that's everything that I would need. Right now I just use plugins or the NTS, but
I'm quite happy with plug-in effects, really. They do what I want.
I like to have the option of not having to go through the computer all the time. I just like to switch some things on. Yeah. But nowadays, you look at synthesizers and the modern day things that you look at the Cobalt, for example. Some great effects built in. So
I would like a small stone. I think I think that if I could own one physical effects, it might be that.
Yeah,
small stone's great. My one of my favorites is the Bad Stone. I've got one of the little reissue ones, but I have a couple of the originals that are to me are even better than the small stone. There's 6-stage versus the 4-stage of the small stone, but the small stone is like a lot wider in its distribution, so I think it's more famous. But check out the Bad Stone also, really good sounding.
Look at that. Yeah. Lovely.
Yes.
Oh, also, so Torsten asked, do they have MIDI integration? And again, this is, I think, one area where they probably missed it. Like for $400, you'd think you'd have MIDI integration. I mean, you think about Strymon stuff all has it, and other similarly priced pedals, but this has no MIDI integration on it. And you might think, oh, that's something that just keyboardists would care about. But actually, what I've been reading on the gear page and from guitar players, like they've been pretty upset about it because there are a lot more MIDI devices available now. Yeah. And so people who want to have more complex switching stuff with even with a pedal board are a little bit bummed about that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I've been seeing when I've been doing my testing with certain wireless MIDI products. There's a guy who is really, he's got a whole table full of guitar pedals, all with these plugged in, and he's using that, and so it really is an important thing for a lot of guitarists nowadays. But there you go. Ben's has cracked another cold one open. Hopefully not over his Mac keyboard this time, really? But. We have reached we've gone beyond the hour mark, or the 2 hour mark, should I say. So I think we should draw our final Sunday show to a close. This is it, guys. Because now, from this time this Friday, we can finish the show and then go downstairs and get royally drunk and enjoy the rest of the weekend without having to worry
I
about...
don't think people are going to be waiting until after the show. I think that it will probably be the excuse to start.
Yeah, that too.
Crack one at the beginning of the show.
Well, see, the thing is, I have an unwritten rule in my house that I don't start drinking of an evening until about 9 o'clock. And that way it just kind of means that, I don't binge at all. I just, don't have enough time to drink a lot. Yeah. And so what this means is now that I won't be drinking wine in the show.
This AM.
Very good. Yes, so I will be looking forward to the end of the show so that I can crack open a bottle on a Friday night or something. But yeah, anyway. So yes, in case you missed the news, and there are some people that might have joined us, this is our final Sunday show because we are moving to Fridays as of this coming Friday. So you have less than a week to go until you see us and hear from us again. We'll be back this Friday, the 5th of February at 7 p.m. GMT, which is 8 p.m. Central European, 2 p.m. Eastern in the US, and 11 a.m. West Coast in the US. And you can do all the other calculations wherever you are in the world. So yeah, this is it for Sundays. It's been emotional. I'm actually kind of looking forward to Fridays because it's just kind of what a way to finish the working week is to come off and talk bollocks with my mates, basically, which is what I enjoy doing. So yeah, don't forget FFS tomorrow, hashtag FFS, video your filter sweeps, upload them to YouTube, tag them with the hashtag, and keep us informed on our Facebook page and let Andrew know whether you've had any copyright strikes. It'll be interesting to see the variety of claims. I'm doing it myself now. The amount of copyright claims that you get and see if they're
monetization,
all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So do let us know, and we'll be back on. I was about to say same time, same place, because I'm so used to doing it, but we're not. We're going to be back Friday, 7 p.m. Tell the world, tell your mother, and we'll be back then. Just finally, of course, don't forget you can join us on our Facebook page, Pro Synth Network. We've had some rather prestigious members join us in the last few days. I'm not going to name names because we don't do that, but seriously, just heroes.
Vangelis.
Yeah, I wish. But yeah, I'm sure we'll hear from Jean-Michel. No. But we have some serious people, so it's really nice to see. Hopefully they'll be contributing in the future. Of course, there'll be another weekly poll or topic discussion, which we will post in the next few days. And of course, if you want to donate, link is below. It's also in the description down there. We've had a few donations come in during the show. Thank you to all of you who have donated money. It will be put to great use. It buys Ben a 4-pack every show, so keeps him in check. Thanks ever so much for your patronage again, everyone in the chat room. It's been great as normal. Your input has been fantastic. Please do come and join us again from Friday and be as vocal as you are there, and hopefully we'll see more people coming onto the show. Tell everyone, and make sure you subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell button to get notified whenever there's going to be a show, and make sure you like the video too, because it all helps. But subscribers, that'd be really nice.
And if you can't make the live stream, just catch us.
Absolutely.
On the replay. Yeah,
absolutely. Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure as always. We will see you all in about 5 days' time. Take care. Bye bye.
See ya.